Hello, Jeff. We are coming to you live with our third grade students here from Sam Houston Elementary School in Westlake, Texas. Everyone say hi to Jeff. Hi! So just to introduce who we are speaking to here, his name is Jeffrey Stern, and he is a recipe developer. He is a food writer, which is a food critic, and he's a real live chocolatier. This is amazing. Where this started was you guys reading a summer book called The Chocolate Touch. And it's by Patrick Skeen Catling. And it's about a boy named John who desperately loved chocolate. And he didn't seem to understand the balance between too much chocolate and not enough chocolate, right? And so he started to develop a problem of everything he touched became chocolate. And so that inspired us in third grade here to research and find how are we going to be able to bring the originality of chocolate to the classroom. And so we researched online and we found a shop called the Cocoa Pod, which is owned by Jeff. And Jeff was able to mail me some real life Cocoa Pods. They're chocolate pods where chocolate really grows from, and he's going to go further into that. And so that is why we are able to do this here today with you. He agreed to Skype. It's actually his idea to Skype with you guys. So I was super excited. We're going to go ahead and start with some of our students presenting questions to you. Let's start with Olivia. Olivia, can you please stand and introduce yourself to Jeff?
Good morning. My name is Olivia Olivares.
Keep going.
And my question for you today is, what is chocolate?
Okay. What is chocolate? So, there is a tree, and it is called, in the scientific name, Theobroma cacao. And this tree, it grows approximately 10 degrees north and south of the equator. And it has pods on it. Now, you guys have probably seen pods, but I've got one right here. This is a live pod.
Hold on, Jeff. They're excited.
So, when the pods are fresh, they're really bright in color. They're usually yellow, green, red, orange. They can vary in color. And inside these pods, you can hear them, are the cocoa beans. Those cocoa beans are taken out, and they're first what's called fermented. Then they're dried out, and they take those beans, and I hope I can show you here. Here's a bean. They have a shell on it. So those shells are broken off. You guys ever seen a peanut, probably? They have a shell around them, right? So that shell is taken off and broken up, and inside the bean, it's broken into little pieces, and those little pieces are called nibs. And they take those nibs, they grind them up even further on machines, they add sugar, and the end product is called chocolate. So it's a pretty long process, takes a lot of big equipment. It's not very easy to do at your house, but chocolate is the mixture of ground up, roasted cocoa beans with sugar added and processed into what we know as chocolate today.
Awesome. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Lily Ipina, and I wanted to know where chocolate comes from.
Good question. Okay. So as I mentioned, the tree that cocoa grows on grows only around the equator, about 10 degrees north and south of the equator. So, do you guys know any tropical countries?
Any countries that are tropical? Rainforest. They said a rainforest.
Okay, you're close. It grows in the rainforest in some places. So, some countries that cocoa grows in is the Ivory Coast, Ghana. Those are two of the biggest producers of cocoa beans in the world, and those are in Africa. It also grows in countries like Ecuador, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, as far north as Mexico, and also in Hawaii.
Wow, chocolate in Hawaii.
There's also cocoa in Indonesia and Vietnam and countries in that area. So it's all in a belt around the equator in the tropical parts of the world is where cocoa beans are grown.
Hi, my name is Dylan Castillo, and I wanted to know how long it takes for cacao trees to produce chocolate pods.
So from the time a tree is planted, it takes anywhere from about 2 to 5 years before the tree starts to yield the cocoa pods. So it's quite a long time. And then once the tree starts producing between the second and the fifth year, the tree will produce for quite a number of years afterwards, at least 10 to 20 years. Wow. And cocoa trees can live to over 100 years old, but as they get older, they start to produce a little bit less and less.
My name is Anakin Gonzalez, and I wanted to know if cocoa trees can survive where there's little rain.
Well, as I said, cocoa trees grow around the equator, and around the equator there's a lot of rain. So they do need a very special climate with a lot of rain to grow. So if you got a seed, say, to grow where you are, you might be able to get a sprout to come up if you kept it in a really warm spot and watered it a lot. But it probably would never produce a cocoa pod. So they really do need a special environment and a special climate to produce cocoa pods and the cocoa beans that are needed to make chocolate.
Hello, I'm Nicole Cardona, and I was wondering what climates do cacao trees need to survive and where do they grow the most?
So they need a very rainy climate, actually, touching on our last question. Yes. They need a lot of rain, a soil that drains well, and it needs to be very warm. Most places where cocoa grows, it's never cooler than about 80 degrees year-round.
Hello, my name is Alessandra Sustaita, and I was curious on how you open a chocolate pod.
Okay, so like I said, these pods, when they're harvested, they're fresh and they're still very hard, but they're soft enough to cut into. So the way it's done is with a machete. You guys know what a machete is, right? Yeah. It's like a really big knife. And it's all done by hand in most places. And the pods are sliced open with a machete, and then the beans are shaken out and piled up with other beans from other pods. And it takes hundreds and hundreds of pods to get a lot of beans to make chocolate.
Hi, my name is Natalie Alanese, and I was curious about what kind of insects or animals eat the cocoa beans inside the pods.
Okay, so I know that animals like squirrels or monkeys, they like to eat not actually the beans inside the pod, because the beans aren't very tasty by themselves and when they're fresh. They really don't taste like chocolate when they're fresh. So around the beans inside the pod, when they are fresh, is a kind of white pulp, and it's really sweet. It kind of tastes like a mixture of a pear, a pineapple, and maybe an apple. And so animals like to break open the pods or get into them to eat that pulp, but the beans they won't really eat. And the other thing to know is that cocoa trees are affected by some diseases that are funguses and bacteria that will kill them.
Hello, my name is Mia Aguilar, and I was interested in finding out if chocolate growers have problems with people or animals stealing the sun-dried cocoa beans while they're drying out.
Not a whole lot. Most of the time, the beans, when they're being dried out, are laid out on like a big patio, something like a volleyball court or big cement area, where there are usually people around all the time watching them. And the other interesting thing to know, since it does rain a lot where cacao beans are being dried, they often have like a little kind of a roof that they can roll over that's on rails so that the beans can be covered up in case it rains. Or they'll have the beans inside a structure, kind of like a greenhouse, and they might be able to peel the roof back or roll the roof back so that the sun could come in and close it up when it starts to rain.
Hi, I'm Aldo Butanda, and I wanted to know what other uses can you use the leftover pods for?
So these leftover pods that you guys have one of, they're really more than anything for decoration and to educate people like you who want to know more about where chocolate comes from, because most people have never seen one of these pods. The empty ones, you can use them to store business cards in or index cards. You could put a candle in there, any kind of thing you can think up, you could use an empty pod for. And for the whole pods, like I said, I like to use them to decorate around my house and when I'm giving classes on chocolate and when I'm talking to groups like you guys.
Hi, my name is Kaden Escamilla, and I was wondering, how can growing chocolate save the planet?
Well, so because most cocoa trees are grown with other crops and often in the rainforest, they can help prevent people from cutting down the rainforest because it needs that kind of climate. You don't really want to cut down everything and then just plant cocoa. And that's usually not the way it's grown. So that's a good thing for helping the forests and the rainforests and the planet.
Hi, my name is Evangeline Pompa, and I was interested to know, how many jobs can growing chocolate make?
There are millions of people who actually grow cocoa trees. And it may not be the only thing they grow. They also may grow some citrus, oranges, grapefruits, beans, other plants that grow in the tropics, corn sometimes, a number of different things. So there are a lot of jobs for farmers to grow cocoa.
Hello, my name is Samuel Garcia. I was interested in finding out if you can freeze chocolate.
Sure, you can freeze chocolate. It's not recommended because you don't want to eat chocolate when it's frozen. You won't be able to appreciate the taste as well.
I'm Paola Sanchez. I was curious if I can grow my own cacao tree in a pot or in my backyard.
You might be able to get a seedling to sprout. Here's the thing. You guys have some cocoa beans, right?
Yes.
Okay, so those cocoa beans, they're actually a seed for a tree, but since they've been fermented and dried out, they're dead. They're seeds that won't grow. So the only way you can actually start a tree from a seed is to get a live seed, which means one that has been recently and freshly removed from the pod, and then plant it immediately, and in a couple of weeks' time, you'll have a seedling growing.
Hello, my name is Alfredo Moreno, and I really want to know, how do you become a chocolatier?
Okay, how you become a chocolatier? Very good question. So many chocolatiers usually study culinary arts first, which is all about cooking, and probably they study even more about pastry and making desserts and things like that. And then there are some online courses you can take to be a chocolatier, or a lot of people actually just go work in a chocolate shop and learn by experience. And especially in Europe, you can take a lot more classes in making chocolate and confectionery. If you want to learn to actually make chocolate from the bean, you would probably study something like food science.
Interesting. Well, that is all of the questions we have for you today, Jeff. I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and help educate our students here at Sam Houston Elementary in Westlaco, Texas. Thank you again. Everyone say bye. Bye. Thank you, Jeff. I had to find a way to inspire our students to want to read the novel that they've already read in the summer. And I always go about finding artifacts to connect what they're reading about and to understand why a character might say what they say or why they might do what they do. And so we read about how the chocolatier in the book had transported chocolate from Africa. And so when we spoke to Jeff, the real chocolatier in real life time here, he said it comes from Ghana, which is part of Africa. And so now we're gonna be able to connect that in their reading. And so to see a real cocoa pod with the beans and the empty hull, this is just so inspiring, not only for my students, but also for me, because it just keeps me hungry to keep showing them more.
The kids loved it. They came up with questions, and they've been doing a lot more research, and they'll do a lot more projects after this is over because they're very inspired.
What we want to do is we want to create that love of reading and make those connections. So what you just saw here with our teachers and with our students is taking this to a deeper level. They're making that connection from text to world, and they're making it meaningful. And we see a lot of this taking place in many of our campuses, and we always want to highlight all their hard work that they do. So kudos to our Sam Houston teachers, to Mrs. Gutierrez and Sam Houston Elementary, and all the boys and girls for their hard work with this lesson.